So I do want to get started, and I'd like to say good morning to everybody. And I also would like to let you know if we will be recording today's session. And I want to welcome you all to our March AARP New Hampshire Coffee and Conversation, Spring into Better Health with Laurie Terwilliger. My name is Mary Roberge, and I am co-hosting today with Alan Cohen. We are both AARP New Hampshire volunteers. Our guest speaker this morning is registered dietitian, nutritionist, Laurie Terwilliger. Working also with us this morning is Bev Cotton, who is another AARP New Hampshire volunteer. And Bev is doing double duty today. She's doing registration, and she may be messaging you in the chat for your name. And she's also going to be monitoring the chat box and raising any questions or comments that you will have throughout this program. And before we get started, I just want to cover a few housekeeping items. Please be sure to mute your line by ensuring that your microphone that's at the bottom of your screen has a line through it. This will help to eliminate any background noise. We do want to hear from everyone this morning, and we do have a very interactive session. So if you do want to ask a question or put in a comment, please use the chat box, which can be accessed by clicking the chat button at the bottom of your screen. At AARP New Hampshire, we are focused on the health, the financial security, and all the social connections that are critical to the well-being of the 50 plus in the Granite State. We do carry out our work through targeted advocacy at the state and the federal levels, compelling engagements of the 50 plus community statewide, and serving as a trusted resource for information for our members and the public. I would like to turn this program over to Alan Cohen, who will be telling us a little bit more about today's program and guests. Alan?
Thanks, Mary. Every new year, people make resolutions to have a healthier lifestyle and to change eating habits, only to find themselves slipping back into old eating behaviors. With the advent of spring, we become motivated to eat healthier. Laurie Terwilliger is a registered dietitian nutritionist. She is the owner of Nutritious Transitions, LLC, a nutrition counseling business specializing in diabetes education, chronic disease management, and senior nutrition. In addition to a private practice, Laurie works as an outpatient dietitian for a community clinic, works in long-term care facilities, and personal nutrition classes, and teaches personal nutrition classes in community college. She's a graduate of UNH and completed her dietetic internship program at Keene State College. Laurie works with everyone to develop a personal eating plan that fits with his or her lifestyle, whether a person is trying to manage a chronic disease, facing a health transition, or wanting a more positive relationship with food. Welcome, Laurie, and thank you for joining us this morning.
Well,
why is it difficult to keep our New Year's resolutions alive throughout the year?
Great question. Thank you, Alan, for that introduction, and thank you, AARP, for having me back. Yeah, so I think we're going to try some of that conversation piece. So we're going to try a few poll questions right now before I start. So why don't want to try that?
Sure. Do you want to try and handle the issue of why it's difficult for people to?
Yeah. Well, how about one of the questions was, did people out there make a New Year's resolution?
Okay, we'll try that first. So, did you make a New Year's resolution or goal this year?
Hopefully, we'll get some answers.
We still have some people taking the poll. Okay, I'm going to end the poll.
Kind of half and half almost.
What have we got? Okay. So we had 55% of people that did and 45% of people who did not. We've got a second poll question, unless you want
Sure.
to.
Let's just do all three of them.
Okay, let's do it that way. Did you make a goal that involved health and nutrition?
Okay, I'm going to end the poll.
Okay,
Okay.
and here more than half, almost 70% of people said that they did. Our third poll question, are you still working on that goal, or were you successful in completing it?
Okay.
Let's see. Still working on it. 83.
Hmm.
And then, are you still, or were you successful? Yes. Okay. So 83. Okay.
Okay. Any thoughts, Laurie, before we can continue on with our second question to you?
Oh, I think those were all the questions.
Oh, okay. Well, we've got a second. Oh, okay. Okay.
So, yeah,
We've
this
got
is
a-
great.
So Laurie, we were just curious why it was so difficult to keep our New Year's resolutions alive throughout the year.
Right. Okay, so for those of you that are still working on your goal 3 months out, which is 83% of you, 10 out of 12, you should really give yourself a pat on the back because I'm going to get rid of that. Because typically only about 20% of people that make New Year's resolutions actually complete them. So the fact that you're still working on them is really great. So we're talking about maybe the other 20% that in this case for you, but normally some of the reasons that making New Year's resolutions in January fail is I'm just gonna go back a little bit to that talk I gave in the SMART goals like last March. But the main reason is that we haven't had that conversation with ourselves as to why do we really want to make this goal? Like, first of all, what is the goal and why do we want to make it? It's really simple to put out a goal or an idea, such as I want to have a healthier diet or I want to lose weight. But we really need to do some reflecting in our own minds as to why we chose that. And so there's really three things that are necessary if we're going to be successful at a goal. And so the first thing that we have to determine is, are we really ready to make the goal? It's easy to say I want to lose weight or I want to improve my diet, but we have to think about that that's going to require changes and it's going to require getting out of our comfort zone and doing new things. So we have to determine, are we ready to make those changes? And then we have to think about, was our goal realistic? I think the last time I talked, I mentioned my sister, her goal, she said her New Year's resolution, she was so excited she was going to learn how to cross country ski. Well, this is a person who has balance issues her whole life, and she's never been on skis, and she doesn't even like skiing. So I don't know where that came from, but you have to ask yourself, is it realistic? Is my, am I really going to do this? And the third thing we have to determine is, do we have the internal motivation to do it? Are we doing this goal or making this goal because we should do it? We've heard people tell us we should, or we've read information that says you really should do this, for example, like eating breakfast in the morning. Is it something we want to do rather than someone else telling us? And then along those lines, as if you decide yes, you have to have a plan because there's going to be bumps along the way, and every goal needs a plan for those times. So it really requires a lot of thinking beforehand if a person wanted to make a goal. Um, so because of this dismal success with New Year's resolutions, there have been some people that are starting to ask whether January is really a good time to make changes to our lifestyle, which is your diet and your physical activity. And for those of us, we live in New Hampshire, it's relatively a northern climate. And if you think about it, January comes right smack in the middle of winter. And winter is sort of a time, if we had to describe it, it'd be a time of less, meaning less daylight, less warmth, less sunshine. Because of the conditions, the weather conditions with ice and snow, we have less physical activity outside. A lot of people aren't prepared for ice or snow or cold, or they don't like it. And because we have this less physical activity outside, a lot of other people aren't outside either. And it gets dark earlier. So less daylight means we're at home more. We really don't want to go outside after dark. So that means less social interaction also. And so longer darkness kind of works on our mental health also, and that will sap our motivation for continuing with a New Year's resolution or any type of a goal. So being inside also, if we think about nutrition, we might be hanging around more, so we're going to be eating more and snacking more. So if we think about all those factors, it's really not surprising at the way that New Year's that people aren't achieving their goals. And so perhaps a better time to start is actually spring. And this is March 1st, so spring's just around the corner. And if we think about spring, it's kind of like the word more, because we have more daylight, we have more sunshine, we have warmer temperatures, although not recently in New Hampshire. Well, actually it just keeps going back and forth. We have greater opportunities to be outside for physical activity. People are outside more, so there's more social interaction. We have more daylight at the end, the end of our day. If we happen to be working or volunteering all day, we still have daylight. So we're not afraid to go outside and start interacting and going places. So spring is really the time. It's a great time to get back on track because we're kind of shifting from that hibernation mode of staying inside and eating a whole lot of food, not getting any exercise. We kind of want to start being outside more. So getting back on track is what today is about, which is kind of a little bit review. And then afterwards, hopefully we'll have a little bit of time to talk about something that's very popular in spring, which is the detox and the cleanse diets that you might have heard about. So the fact that 83% of you, so about half of you made goals and 83% are actually still doing them. That is really awesome. Another thing about spring that's more of a positive than January is that in spring, with the days are just going to get longer and the temperatures are going to get warmer. So any changes that you have made or are going to think about making, it's like you have longer time to really cement them into a new habit and make the change before winter comes again. And we go into that season of less. So getting back on track, I'm just going to review those SMART goals. And that was the SMART. And it's about being specific with the goal that you make, having a way to measure it, make sure it's achievable and it's relevant to what you want to do. And you give yourself a time limit, meaning a due date, so to speak. So just for an example, let's take someone who they made a goal to eat breakfast in the morning because they don't currently eat breakfast. Well, the first thing they have to think about is, have I been told that I should eat breakfast or do I really want to eat breakfast? So that's really doing that reflection. So now you decide, yes, I do. And so you make it specific, because breakfast is a big word, a big realm. It can mean a lot of things. And so maybe breakfast, again, you want it to be realistic. Maybe breakfast is, I'm going to have a piece of toast in the morning. Achievable. So it's very specific, one piece of toast, achievable. I skipped measurable, but let's go to the achievable part. In that reflection, you have to remember that some people that haven't had breakfast, like if you're the type of person who really has not had breakfast for 20 or 30 years, you've developed that habit, you have your cup of coffee and you just go. You need to think about how reasonable, how achievable is this goal to actually have something to eat. So obviously, you're probably not going to want to start with making a big omelet with vegetables and toast and a smoothie on the side. You're probably going to want to start simple. And so you choose it. And that's where, for example, maybe the piece of toast, is it easy? Can I do it? Do I have the resources for it? So measurable, that's where it comes into how much toast am I going to eat? I'm going to have a piece or two pieces. I'm really not that hungry in the morning. Be specific. That leads to better success. It's relevant. You've chosen a nutrition goal. You want to help your health. You want to nourish your body. Yeah, that's relevant. Is it white toast or whole wheat toast? Really get nitpicky here, because that is where the success comes from. And then time bound, meaning, if you're a person that has not had solid food breakfast for 20, 30 years, probably saying, I'm going to start eating breakfast 7 days a week is not going to lead you for success. It's not going to be achievable. But maybe one morning a week is. And so that's where you start. So getting back on track for the other 17% of you, it would be find that something that you really want to do. And this topic is nutrition. Maybe there's something in nutrition that you would like to change, and start small. And so one place to start on that path is the second question that I think Alan's going to ask.
Well, we're kind of jumping a little bit all over, but what are some easy food substitutes that can help us transition from eating winter heavy comfort foods to lighter fare?
Yeah, exactly. And I am probably going to jump all over. So, sure. So one place to start is that transition from the heavy winter foods that we tend to eat, the casseroles, the sauces, into something lighter. And it can be very, very simple. For example, let's do green beans, right? So maybe you're used to, or you have a tradition of having some green bean casserole or green beans with a heavy sauce. One way is to keep the green beans, because obviously you still like them. So choose something you like. And now you're going to be transitioning to maybe using olive oil, sauteing them in olive oil or lemon or garlic, something very light. And the benefit of this, of taking that vegetable that you like and making it lighter, is that you're not so focused anymore on the heaviness and the sodium and the fat and the creamy textures. You get to actually taste the vegetable. And I'm going to be focusing on vegetables because, and I know you've heard it before, you're probably really sick of hearing about vegetables, but it's a great way to start in that transition. Asparagus is a wonderful vegetable that's coming up in springtime. And I don't know, but for me, I know that if you really think about our winter foods, they tend to be like kind of soft. We don't really need to chew much, right? The pastas, sauces, the casseroles, potatoes, they're all fine foods, but we don't have to chew much. And so what happens is we tend to eat a lot of them at one sitting because we're just kind of, you know, stuffing them down our face because it doesn't require much work. When we start to ease up on that for spring and transition to this lighter fare where we're just sauteing or steaming, especially those high fiber vegetables, for those that can eat them, they take a long time to chew. And so just the very nature of having to chew our food again, looking for something that's kind of fresh and crunchy, that's going to slow us down and help all around by we won't be consuming as much as before. And another, for example, another transition would be let's just take macaroni and cheese. You can still keep the macaroni, but how about changing up some of that cheese? You can even grate some Parmesan or some other stronger cheese on it and toss it with olive oil and herbs, maybe some vinegar too. And then the key again is getting some of those sauteed high fiber vegetables in there also. So you've kind of moved from a heavy, cheesy, buttery, heavy cream mac and cheese to a more lighter, springy summer, like pasta salad. But I do want to interject that the emphasis, maybe we can start shifting to more of the vegetables. So it's a vegetable pasta salad rather than a pasta with a little bit of onions and green pepper.
Just to emphasize what Laurie said, just another poll question. Does your eating pattern or diet change moving from winter to spring or the spring to the summer? Just as another poll question, just to emphasize what Laurie said.
Yep.
And the answer is overwhelmingly yes, that people really did make changes. And just another question to throw out to everyone in the chat: what changes did you make? And if you want, you can please offer your answers in the chat section on your screen.
More salads. What are some other? More vegetables. Got that more there, huh? Because it's spring. And use the grill, sure. And shopping locally. Yeah, soups are kind of interesting. Someone says I do a lot of soups in winter. Soups are one of those things in wintertime that actually doesn't have to change from winter to spring. They can be very light, tons of vegetables, a light broth. Great. Okay, so I think everybody's right on board with the vegetables here. And that's good to see. So are there any questions just about what we covered here about, or something you wanted to share that anybody wants to share about that transition from the heavier to the lighter, or even about sticking with goals before I end with the detox? Not hard with the chat, isn't it?
Okay, no questions, at least at this moment. One other poll question I just wanted, before you enter into into talking about detox, I want to ask one other poll question. Have you ever tried a detox or cleanse diet? This is a poll question. There we go. And overwhelmingly, the answer to that is no, which is a good lead in for you, Laurie. Can you talk to a little bit about a detox or a cleansed diet, and really, are they necessary?
Great. So I do associate, a lot of times people dissociate these detox and cleanse diets with spring and spring renewal. So yeah, what are they? They are marketed as a way for weight loss or for getting the toxins out of your body. They usually are based upon, they can be based on foods and most more likely liquids, fasting, powders, supplements. So are they necessary is huge, especially for those the few that were thinking about it. Please give it a hard think. They are not necessary. Our liver is our natural cleansing organ. It is detoxing and cleansing our blood 24/7. And we don't have to pay for it. It's just there in our body. And so we need to use it. We need to take care of it. And we don't take care of it by buying products that are supposed to take care of the liver. I mean, it's just natural. So our kidneys are also great detoxers. They take all that toxin and we basically flush it out of our system. Even when we sweat, we're sweating out toxins. So our body is very well adapted, a healthy body for taking care of this process. So there's actually no scientific evidence for any detox diet. The much more important thing is eating a balanced, healthy, in the sense of fresh vegetable, fresh, frozen, or canned, doesn't matter, vegetables, fruits, whole grains, you've heard it all before, a real balanced diet. And that is what is going to keep us healthy. The thing that's very interesting about detox and cleanse is that a lot of times the people that are trying these are thinking are still smoking, they're still drinking alcohol, or they might be doing other drugs too. And so think about those three main things as really, if you wanted to help your body be the healthiest it can, would be eliminating those three. Because a cleanser, detox, these products are not going to help. And so the other negative thing about these is that they usually involve eliminating foods, eliminating things from your diet. And we really don't want that, particularly as we grow older. We actually need more nutrition in our body. So we don't want to be eliminating. And the cost of the cleanse diets, remember that everything you read on the internet, not everything, but pretty much everything about nutrition, a lot of times if you really go to the end, they want your money. And so even for a lot of people, thinking about eliminating or fasting is probably not a good idea depending on what type of diseases that you might be managing in your own health. So I could go on and on, but I'm seeing from the thing that it's 10:30. So about detox and cleanse diets, but the answer is no, we don't need them. What we need more is to be spending our money on good food, real food. And that is how we remain healthy.
Laurie, can you speak to the necessity these days of buying organic only?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. Organic, as you know, it's very expensive. And so you have to ask yourself, why am I buying organic? Is it because I'm hearing that I need to? Or, what do you know about organic? There's two ways. You could buy organic because you want to support the organic way of sustainability, organic farming processes. And if that is your motivation to promote organic farming practices, reduce pesticide use, reduce herbicide use, look at sustainability, then yes, buy organic foods because you're supporting that. If you think you're going to get better nutrition, the science really doesn't show that. So organic is you got to look at your budget. And if you really want to buy organic, go to that environmental working group, EWG, on the website. And that gives you like that dirty dozen. So choose your vegetables off of their list. They do a lot of research as to which vegetables and fruits have the most pesticides and herbicides on them and other toxic chemicals. And if, say, you love apples and you eat them all the time, then go ahead, buy organic apples because that's something you love. But for a lot of other, and because you're normally going to eat the peel, but for a lot of fruits and vegetables, it's really not necessary. What's necessary is getting that vegetable or fruit on your plate and eating it, washing it really well, and getting it on your plate. Does that make sense? That going and getting commercial, washing it, and start eating it. Save your money for where you get the most bang for the buck, and that's going to be on that environmental working group, Dirty Dozen list.
Great. Okay. And if there are any other questions, please put them in the chat, and we'll hopefully get to them before we close. I did want to make sure that all of you know that Laurie has graciously included some recipes.
Oh, no, I didn't.
Laurie is thinking about including some recipes for us.
No, I did. Actually, I did think about it. And it's too overwhelming. The internet, and there's so much information out there on recipes that I started my little list and I just thought, this is too much. I think everybody can use their internet, or they can go to get a really good recipe book out of a nice local bookstore. There's just a lot of things out there for people with recipes. So that's why I did not put the recipes out. And everybody's different too. I don't know what your individual tastes are. So, you know, I don't want to do that. But I did put up a little handout on substitutions of how we can substitute like those comfort foods into something that's lighter, less calories, less sodium, more flavorful, less fat. So that's the handout that I have up there.
Okay, and you are making your contact information available to everyone, and can we?
Yes, I have an email address if you have any questions or further follow-up. I have I believe Mary put the email out somewhere.
It's also in the chat, but it's Laurie.Terwilliger, TerWilliger @gmail.com.
Yes.
Okay, great. And if there are any other questions for Laurie before our time ends, okay, I don't see any. But
did we get an answer to washing fruits and vegetables and what to wash them with?
Oh, you know, I know that there's some products out there where you wash them, you know, you actually spray. And I'm afraid I don't know anything about that. Maybe somebody else does. I just use water. I just put them under water and really scrub them. But maybe somebody else has a method they use that they want to share. No?
no?
Okay, so yeah, water's fine. I wouldn't use soap. So yeah, just a real good scrubbing. You can tell too. Sometimes you buy broccoli at the store and it's kind of got a white film on it. You can just scrub that right off.
Right. Laurie, do you have any opinion about buying eggs, buying free range versus organic?
Ooh, okay, those are two different things. So free range means they run around and they can run around. I mean, I'm not talking commercial free range, because sometimes commercial free range just means they're not in the cages. If you've ever seen that movie Food Inc., they have, it means you have this gigantic building and the chickens are all down on the floor, but there's still thousands of chickens on the floor all crammed together. And as long as they have the door open, that a chicken can go out. I think that's something like free range, but it doesn't mean they're all over the grass or the pasture. That's with your smaller farms. And so you can have free range, but you can still have them feeding commercial feed at the same time. So organic is going to mean that they are being fed organic corn or some type of grain product. That's what organic means. They've been fed on that. And they're free range too, because they're out there with the insects and the grass and everything else. But what's interesting is that the cholesterol content of free range, actual free range chickens that are out on the pasture is lower than a commercial egg, which is pretty significant. I think it can be almost a third lower, half to 1/3 lower. So there is a difference. And that's whether or not they're organic. It's just the fact that they're out with the grasses and the seeds and the insects. Did that make sense?
Absolutely. Are there any other questions? And seeing none. Laurie, I want to thank you for sharing your time with us this morning. It was fun talking with you and learning about your thoughts and about how we can spring, as we're getting closer to spring, now that we're in March, spring into better health. And thank you to everyone in the audience for joining us for today's Coffee and Conversation. I hope that you enjoyed hearing from Laurie and that the information resources that will be of value to you. I'd like to encourage all of you to visit AARP's website. You don't have to be a member of AARP to access it. We'll put up a link in the chat, which is www.aarp.org, and check with the AARP New Hampshire website often, which is aarp.org/nh, for more virtual programs coming soon, including live cooking demonstrations, paint and sip events, gentle yoga, and yes, more coffee and conversations. So with that, wish you all a good and pleasant day. Laurie, thank you very much.
Well,
And
thank
you
you.
all for attending this morning.
Yeah, thanks to everybody. Happy spring.
Take care.
Bye-bye.